Hi everyone, I recorded the first part of the Poudre Road video some time ago and then got off on other things. I had a little accident and I started some other projects and I never got back to the second part of the Poudre Road video. So here it is sometime later and I decided to go ahead and finish off this video so everybody can see how it ends. In the last video, we covered the history of building the road up the lower canyon. The recorded history in the upper canyon starts much earlier. We'll start today's ride in the little town of Rustic, which is situated at the junction of Pingree Hill Road, the New Canyon Road, which reached here in 1920, and the old Stewart Toll Road. Okay, we're at Glen Echo in Rustic right now. We're going to go in for a cup of coffee. So here we are at Glen Echo Resort. It turns out that the coffee is great and the service is even better. So I'm going to spend a few minutes here before I get on the road again. Can I get you on video? Do you mind?
Sure.
All right. You're my waiter?
I'm your waiter.
This is my waiter here at Glen Echo Resort, a former rider.
It's been a while.
That's okay.
Well, glad you came in to visit us.
Thank you. Here's the restaurant here at Glen Echo. It's early in the morning, so there are not too many people here. They also have a really nice little shop for clothes and all sorts of other stuff. Around 1860, a fur trapper named George Pingree set up a camp here and built a trail up the hill to the north to bring supplies in and carry out furs from the canyon. That trail, Pingree Hill Road, became the only route into the canyon until a lower canyon road was finished in 1920. As early as 1880, a hotel called the Rustic House was built at this intersection. Before the road was finished up the canyon to Rustic in the 20s, travelers had to travel north from Fort Collins to Livermore, then west and down Pingree Hill Road. In 1881, a rough wagon trail was built. By the 1920s, the trail had deteriorated, so when the much improved road from the lower canyon reached Rustic in 1920, construction continued along the old wagon trail toward Cameron Pass. In 1890, John Zimmerman, a prospector and early homesteader, built a reducing mill to process the gold ore he was mining in the canyon. In 1891, a dam at Chambers Lake at the top of the canyon failed, and a torrent of water rushed down the canyon, sweeping away everything in its path. The story goes that Zimmerman was working upriver from the mill site when he heard the water rushing down the canyon. He rode his horse 3.5 miles down to the mill to warn the 13 people at the mill site to evacuate. His horse died, but all 13 people were saved. All that was left of the mill was a stone chimney. Although there is no marker indicating the site, the chimney can be found by following a short trail from the Poudre Canyon Chapel parking lot. John Zimmerman and his family arrived in the Poudre Canyon in 1880. It was his mill that was destroyed in the flood in 1890. The family started working on the Keystone Hotel in 1895. It took 10 years to build the hotel and the surrounding buildings, which included firing all the bricks and mixing all the mortar with limestone that was hauled from 30 miles away. The hotel attracted visitors from all over the country for the next 40 years. In the early days, it could take more than a day to get to the hotel just from Fort Collins, so guests would often stay for weeks at a time. When When the road along the river was completed and improved over Cameron Pass in the 1920s, business slowly dwindled and the family sold the land and buildings to the Colorado Department of Fish and Game in 1946. The buildings are all gone now, but if you're willing to do a little exploring, you can find the site where this wonderful old building stood. I'm guessing that many people who travel this road are unaware that a tunnel was constructed through the mountains between the Larimer River and the Poudre River around here between 1909 and 1911. The plan was to provide more water to the growing agricultural areas in Greeley by transferring water from the Larimer River to the Poudre River. It was a huge project which required damming the river here at Poudre Falls to provide power to run the drills and other equipment needed to bore a hole in the mountain. The tunnel would end up being 11,500 feet long with variable diameters with a minimum diameter of about 5.3 feet. Before any water could be transferred, Wyoming sued Colorado, saying that Wyoming residents had prior water rights. The case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and in 1914, the court ruled that Colorado could only transfer a small portion of the water originally planned. So water only flows through this tunnel periodically. When it does flow, a huge torrent of water gushes down the mountain from the tunnel outlet, under the road and into the Poudre River. In 1858, a trapper named Robert Chambers set up a camp at a lake in the upper reaches of the Poudre Canyon. Shortly thereafter, he was killed and mutilated by Indians. 9 years later, when the Union Pacific sent its tie hacks to the lake to cut railroad ties, they named the lake in honor of the trapper. You can spot the lake and a campground as we near the summit of the canyon at Cameron Pass. Chambers Lake played a part in the lives of many of the early settlers in the canyon. A dam was built at the lake and when opened provided enough water to float ties down the river to use in expanding the railroad. Unfortunately, the dams occasionally burst, sending destructive floods downriver. One such flood destroyed John Zimmerman Mill, the location of which we saw earlier in this video. As the agricultural area at the mouth of the canyon grew more and more, water was needed, so the Joe Wright Reservoir was built in 1905. We passed right by it on our way to the pass. Here we are, Cameron Pass. We're concluding our video right here. The Poudre River veers off in the Rocky Mountain National Park near here. And the road was completed to this point in 1926. So this is a good logical place to conclude our video. There were 1,000 cars and 3,000 people here in 1926 in September when they celebrated the building of the road here. Since the road was not paved, maintenance equipment was hard to come by back in the 20s and 30s and even 40s and 50s. The road was never opened all year long until 1978. We've only touched on the history that this road has to offer. If you'd like to see more or read more about the history, the Stanley R. Case book, The Poudre, A Photo History, is a terrific thing to get hold of. And you can always go down to the Museum of Discovery in Fort Collins. They have an archive, history archive down there that is also very, very good to find and get information. So that's all we have for right now. We'll be putting out more videos shortly. Well, at least when we can get them made. So we thank you for riding along.
See you next time.
Good.